relational denominators. Denominator, it's a math word, right? In an equation, you have a common denominator. You have to add things together. You just have to, or else you have to change something in the conversation. A simple example of that: if you add 6 apples plus 6 apples, you have a common denominator, which is the apples. Now you have 12 apples. If you have 6 apples plus 6 oranges, you have 12 pieces of fruit. You cannot use, or you have to say, both denominators. You can't lose those. Pretty simple kind of concept, right? A simple nuance. You wouldn't even think about it. You just say, I want, a dozen pieces of fruit, let me get a mix. And somehow you added apples and oranges and got fruit. So this is a constant constraint. It's something subconscious that you just realized. You go in the fruit, you go in the meat department. The common denominator is proteins, I guess, in the meat department. So try taking that common denominator into physics and other equations, where if you speak in centigrade or Fahrenheit, it's valid language, but it's not the right language. It's not a usable value. You have to convert that number into an absolute value to keep a common reference, a common denominator underneath your equations. Now you look at the equations people write on boards. The 3x times 7x equals 14y. That denominator. There are classes and people that walk through and keep the denominator. And it takes hours and days. And at the end of years, some people keeping that common denominator end up with equations on boards that impress some very few among us. And others just yell E equals MC squared and second law of thermodynamics. So, this common denominator is a big idea. What's a common denominator in other areas? A human common denominator. Life is a common denominator, something we have in common. For life, we have common things like water and food and air, maybe some level of confidence and comfort in the space that we're in. Common denominator. You cannot put faith as a common denominator. In some places, it fits in others. You cannot put beliefs as a common denominator. This is making too much math of it all, and I'm at 3.5 minutes without a board explaining it, and it's chilly outside. But these are the small things you have to keep in mind, especially in big conversations like nuclear, where people try to change the common denominator. The denominator you were speaking to, like alpha, beta, or gamma radiation, known measurable quantities and properties, well established through time, or other related yet unrelated properties in physics and things that go on and bark in the night. So relational information, relational databases, keeping the relationships, keeping the common denominator. It's something that is just part of what you do consciously and unconsciously. Peace is out.